share with you a passage from the Book of Tea. This is a text that many of us art students are familiar with. It's a required reading for our aesthetics courses. And I thought it was fitting for our occasion today because it is an essay on Japanese art and culture through the lens of Teaism. There's a particular section of it that I very much enjoy. An eminent critic once made a charming confession. Said he, "In my young days, I praised the master whose pictures I liked. But as my judgment matured, I praised myself for liking what the master had chosen to have me like." It is to be deplored that so few of us really take the pains to study the moods of the masters. In our stubborn ignorance, we refuse to render them this simple courtesy, and thus often miss the rich repast of beauty spread before our very eyes. A master has always something to offer, while we go hungry solely because of our own lack of appreciation. I'm sure many of you will understand what I mean by the more you learn about something, the more complicated it becomes. Well, art is no exception. Art can be difficult to understand, even for someone who's studying it professionally. Actually, especially for someone who's studying it professionally. I was lucky to grow up in Northern Virginia because it exposed me to culture from a very young age. We're very privileged to have access to great art collections and institutions with engaging programs. And Virginia has been very good to me, from the shows I've been able to do to my fellowship here at the VMFA. So it is thanks to the amount of opportunities in the area I live in that I'm able to call myself both a student and an exhibiting artist. Despite the critical experience, however, understanding art can be difficult for me. It's normal to spend 30 or 45 minutes, I go to museums for fun, of really studying a work to become familiar with it. But not being able to understand a work of art the first instant you see it is a good thing, because the purpose of art is more than to serve as a decorative item in your living room. The purpose of good art is to make you think. Now in our world, in the world we live in, it's very overstimulating. In our day and age, we move very quickly, and we have a tendency to really selectively pay attention to our surroundings. And that makes sense. If we were to focus on every little thing, we'd probably go insane very quickly. So we try to live efficiently and cut corners on having to focus. But that doesn't work with art. Sure, we can stand in front of a piece for a few seconds and admire the beauty and the colors and whatnot and walk away with what we might call an aesthetic experience, but we miss out on the deeper parts of the work, the meaning, the context, the intention, and the story of the person who made it, the more difficult parts. And we can only learn that if we slow down and really take the time to look and think. The Book of Tea explains the core principles of Teaism, which is a philosophy that encourages every act to be done with care and consideration. And this is demonstrated in the tea ceremony, which is a very meticulously choreographed ritual that elevates an apparently simple act of preparing and drinking tea to a moment of reflection and meditation. And this teaches practitioners that insight and learning can be found in every part of life. Now, Teaism might focus on tea, but the core philosophy of reflection can really be applied to anything we might consider mundane. That by slowing down and focusing on one task, one experience at a time, the person notices and understands more. And this is the approach one must take in order to truly understand and appreciate art. Our engagement with and interpretations of work of art affect much more than our inner selves, because it in itself is an experience. Art is a transcendent experience of when we walk away with an idea or an opinion. And later, it determines what we do, even in the smallest ways. So in that sense, I think of art as a communication between the artist and the viewer and the world, but it can only happen if we allow ourselves the time to see and if we allow ourselves to think. So just as in life, in order to have an experience, we must be open to it. The master always has something to offer, just as the world always has something to offer, though to take the chances we must be brave and attentive and open to that possibility. And I'm reminded every day of how important it is to be open to new ideas and experiences. I'm honored to represent my home state in a program that fosters cultural exchange and partnership. I feel that it's incredibly important to maintain these traditions that encourage peace and cooperation, and I look forward to serving as an ambassador alongside other young women leaders. I would like to thank the Society of Virginia for trusting in me to represent the Commonwealth and for giving me this opportunity. To Pam O'Meara for being ever so welcoming and kind and helpful to me in this process. Thank you to Lorraine Nordlinger for hosting and sponsoring this event. To Pete Berlowitz and Gigi Galbraith for all the work that they do for the National Conference of State Societies and the Cherry Blossom Princess Program. Thank you to the Regan family for your kind generosity in honor of your mother and your grandmother. And I'd like to thank my own mother and my family for always being there for me, always, and whose love endlessly supports me and allows me to work in the way I do. And finally, I'd like to thank my fellow artists and my mentors, the faculty at George Mason University School of Art, and everyone I've worked with and currently work with in my studio practice. Thank you.